welcome back to Blue Flag Bandits, the series that drives F1's worst cars so you don't have to, in the desperate hunt for points from 2010 to the present day, whenever that may be, and we're in 2013, we're in the final throes of our season in the Marussia MR02, and you join us off the back of a truly dismal Japanese Grand Prix where the only silver lining is that we beat both of the two faces you see there on the screen. We just about edged Jules Bianchi and Daniel Ricciardo on the results page after they got caught being lapped. Opportunistic move on Ricciardo right at the death, but it was a race to forget. There were incidents, there were some robust moves that didn't really, were probably well over the line, but weren't penalised as such. And after three results that were within the top 12 and one that included points back in Singapore, we fell to earth with quite the bump, finishing 18th. But we are 2-1 up, I think, in our rivalry with Ricciardo, which is something good, and a point ahead of Bianchi. In the standings, though, after that result, at the top end of things, Sebastian Vettel leads now by 7, with Lewis Hamilton a further 10 back. Those three hammer and tongs for the final 4 rounds of the season to see who takes the title. Lewis obviously trying to defend the crown he took in our 2012. Rosberg, I think, is now mathematically out of the fight. And Massa 2. Webber took victory last time out in his 6th, ahead of Perez, Raikkonen, Button. Grosjean jumped Hulkenberg to move back into the top 10, whereas Di Resta, Sutil, Gutierrez, Ricciardo and Maldonado follow suit. There we are, 17th, last of the point scorers, ahead of Verne, Bottas, Bianchi, Peak and Van der Garde. While at the other end of things, in the constructors, the other side of things, Mercedes hold a lead over Red Bull, who are just ahead of Ferrari. So again, 3-way scrap for the constructors title. McLaren aren't going to be defending that title that they picked up last season. They're in 4th, battling with Lotus, Sauber in a bubble on their own in 6th. Ahead of Force India, Toro. So we are behind Williams, but ahead still of Caterham. And we head to the Indian Grand Prix, the last Indian Grand Prix. Only lasted on the calendar for a few years. This, obviously, the site of Sebastian Vettel's real-world 4th title, and the images of him bowing to his car pretty burnt into Formula One fans' memories from that period. And we had a decent race of it here last season. We took P9 in the HRT. It was probably our best race of the season, even though our result wasn't the best of the season after the 2nd in Singapore and the 3rd in Malaysia. But it was the best performance of the season. So I'm kind of hoping that we can do something similar here this year after such a dismal time in Suzuka. But as we saw with Korea, the track's very, very different in feel in kind of how you drive them in 2013 compared to what we've had before. So it's probably best I get out there and see the lay of the land in New Delhi. While we do, we'll talk about that record-defining 2013 Indian Grand Prix. The final Indian Grand Prix was round 16 of the season, and both drivers' and constructors' titles could be wrapped up at this race. Vettel would take the title with a 5th place if Alonso won, while Red Bull could also seal the constructors' title with favourable results. In the lead up to the race, Toro Rosso announced that Daniel Kvyat would be joining the team, replacing the outgoing Ricciardo for 2014. The opening practice session saw little incident, save for Force India's reserve driver Collado taking a spin at turn 15. Vettel would lead the standings ahead of Webber and Rosberg. Alonso would only complete 6 laps with a gearbox glitch. The second session would be equally sedate, save for Maldonado losing a wheel nut on his front right wheel, though the wheel would stay on the car, unlike it had in Japan. Vettel would lead Webber once again, with Grosjean in 3rd. The final practice session would be cut down to 40 minutes, the start being delayed as the medical helicopter couldn't take off in the thick smog around the circuit. Despite the reduced running, Vettel and Webber would lead the times once again, while Alonso closed in on his rivals to take 3rd. Qualifying saw lap times improve rapidly, which would catch out the Lotus of Romain Grosjean, who found himself nudged out in Q1 by Felipe Massa, who just got through. The Lotus would be joined by the Williams of Maldonado, both Caterhams, and both Marussias. There were no shocks in Q2, as Bottas, Gutierrez, both Force Indias and both Toro Rossos would be eliminated, though Webber would have a scruffy lap, running wide. Christian Horner would claim that no time was gained, an opinion shared by Charlie Whiten, who allowed his lap time to stand. The championship leader and champion-elect at this point, Sebastian Vettel, took another pole position, setting him up to claim that title, while Alonso could only manage 8th. Mercedes would claim 2nd and 3rd, ahead of Webber, while Massa, Raikkonen and Hülkenberg and the 2 McLarens would fill out the rest of the top 10. Vettel would lead away from the line, comfortably clear of his rivals, while Alonso attempted to move on Webber, damaging his front wing in the process, also then tangling with Jenson Button as the lap progressed. Vettel wouldn't lead for long, however, as he pitted on lap 2 to get rid of the fragile soft tyres. The race settled into quite the rhythm. Vettel cut his way through the field, and by lap 21 he was back up into 2nd place. This left Red Bull 1-2, with Webber leading the way, even after the final round of pit stops. Such was the lack of action on track. Red Bull looked on course to celebrate their crowning with a lockout at the front, until Webber's RB9 developed a gearbox glitch, which was the sign of something more substantial with the electrics. An issue which then saw Mark Webber pull to the side of the track and out of the race. There were no such problems for his teammate though. Vettel cruised to his 4th world title and secured Red Bull a 4th Constructors' title with 3 rounds left to go. Rosberg would finish 2nd ahead of Grosjean, while Massa, Perez, Hamilton, Raikkonen, Di Resta, Sutil and Daniel Ricciardo would take home the points. Then at the final Indian Grand Prix, can we hope to take a decent qualifying result? The Bud circuit is an odd place to drive, but it's given us at least a decent race result from last season. Our qualifying pace in 2013, though, has been really quite poor, and this seems like a track where our lack of affinity with the circuit could mean we're scrapping to avoid the back row. I think we need to aim for something fairly low and aim for 20th place. Avoid the back row of the grid, and hope that we don't lack as much pace as we think we do.
We don't need to push too hard in this session. We should have the pace to qualify easily.
In the garage then for qualifying the Indian Grand Prix, Engineer Andy's objectives still a little bit warped despite how terribly Japan went. Practice was okay, we finished 19th as you'd expect. Circuit feels a lot of fun in the middle sector. I kind of forgot how fun it was, and these last couple of seasons driving it have kind of made me wonder what it would be like in a modern F1 car. But we'll never know, or it's very unlikely we'll ever know. I think it's going to be another tough session for us though. I feel like the long straights kind of negate any hope we have, so fighting our normal back markers is going to be the real key here. So let's get out there, get some laps on the board, see if we can do ourselves proud. And then to our fastest lap in Q1, which actually was our first lap, such was our sort of lack of any pace. Tried to turn in a little early into turn 1, but that actually aids us on the way out. We don't take too much exit curb and don't lose too much time as we head up to the tight hairpin before leading on to the long back straight. Nice and smooth and clean there, having to just adjust our positioning down the back straight as we get the DRS and just wait. You're waiting for an eternity here, really, to get on the brakes again at the hairpin at the other end. There's a little bit of traffic, but probably too far away from us as we hit the brakes, get really nice and tight, but we get a little bump where the track camber comes in and kind of throws our rear end out a little bit. We get into this really weird middle sector. We're wide on entry to the first part, really having to back off through the middle so we don't cut the corner and invalidate our laps, and again, maybe just a bit too cautious on still slightly cold tyres. Getting into this long right-hander, kind of like Zandvoort's turn 3 or 4. A little bit of camber that you can use to try and swing the car around. Get on the power maybe a touch too early and run wide. But we're way ahead of Sutil's first run, so at least looking good. Heading back up the hill to another tight hairpin, which we again miss the apex on the entry and run wide. But we can get on the power and slingshot down to the final corner. This time, really tight to the apex, maybe a little too tight as we bounce over the inside curb, cross the line, and set a time. Is it going to be good enough by the end?
That's qualifying over for us. We were hoping for better. You're starting in 22nd tomorrow.
Qualifying over and last place on the grid. No pace whatsoever. Another one of those races where things just don't go to plan. However, as you can see, Daniel Ricciardo has a 10-place grid drop, which means he'll be starting behind us on the grid. We'll start P21. We're not connected with Verne, Pastor Maldonado, Bianchi, Peak and Van der Garde. And the reason that Daniel Ricciardo has a 10-place grid drop is that I was on a fast lap, maybe marginally faster than my best, in my first set of lap times, and he was going slowly on the racing line. I tried to avoid him, didn't avoid him in time, went straight into the back of him. It actually catapulted him out of qualifying, but it also netted him a grid drop. So we'll start in front of our rival, at least in the race. I really hope that race pace is going to be better. We have seen that this season where, qualifying pace not there, race pace has been better. So fingers crossed we can have a better time of it in the Grand Prix. But let's cross over to that Grand Prix and see if that theory holds true. In the garage then for the final Indian Grand Prix in the series, P21 by virtue of Ricciardo's grid drop. Lacked pace in qualifying, all ends up. We were way off anybody else really. I'm kind of hoping that race pace is going to be a bit better, but let's take a look at the grid order before we talk about the race. Lewis Hamilton took pole position ahead of Sebastian Vettel. Nico Rosberg gets in between the two of the three championship protagonists in the other one. Fernando Alonso in fourth. Webber in fifth. Then it's Button, Raikkonen, Massa, Perez and Grosjean. Nico Hülkenberg just outside the top 10 in 11th ahead of Paul di Resta. Adrian Sutil, Valtteri Bottas, Gutierrez and Verne. Then Maldonado, Bianchi, Peak, Van der Garde and Daniel Ricciardo at the back, thanks to his penalty. And look, we had a really, really great race here last season, and it wasn't even like it was a good qualifying then either. So having a bad start down on the back row doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a terrible race, but Japan was not a good one for us. And I don't know, just we don't seem to have any kind of pace at all, or at least didn't in qualifying here. It's going to be really tough, I think, to get back on our little run of form that we had. Maybe we'll have a chance at somewhere like Brazil, because that seems like the kind of place that we might be okay at. I think we've just got to aim to try and beat Ricciardo and our fellow back markers. So P18 is our target. If we beat Ricciardo, we're 3-1 up, and I think that means that we win the rivalry, because I'm pretty sure when we selected Ricciardo it had 3 dots next to it. I don't know whether that meant best of 3 or what, but by the by. But hopefully with him behind us at the start, and we make moves early and get some places, we might be able to do something. But let's head to the grid for the final Indian Grand Prix, the Indian Grand Prix of 2013. Hamilton, Vettel front row. And there's Jules. And there we are, down at the back. Pep talks today as we get the red lights on, and away we go. A crawl off the line there. The hold was not long at all, which means that Ricciardo is already darted past us, and we've fallen off the back of the field going into turn 1. Everybody's going to concertina up, and we can get on the brakes a bit later. There's the Force Indias around. They've made contact with each other at what is their home Grand Prix, and we slice our way up the inside of Jean-Eric Verne. We tap the back of Romain Grosjean. We're up between the two Saubers up to P12. The kind of start we needed. The Force Indias, though, into blows with each other as Hulkenberg hits the back of Grosjean. We have to hit the brakes hard to avoid the Frenchman. He's battling with his teammate Raikkonen. Yellow flag out behind us, and we'll go up the inside of the Finn and into the top 10. Very much feels like the kind of start we had last season on our run to P9, as Raikkonen then just shoves us onto the grass, but we keep the Lotus behind us for now. He's going to keep looking. I'd assume we're going to lose Grosjean shortly. A shallow line through that corner. Or just thinking we were going to run wide. The curbs into the final corner, but we will cross the line at the end of lap 1 in the top 10, at least at the moment. They're all over the place through the first sector, but Raikkonen just drives into the side of us, which is enough for us to hold position. We're all over the shop through the middle sector there, and Raikkonen tries to barge his way around the outside. I think he's going to make it as well, you know. There he goes. Got no pace and at the moment seemingly no grip. It's Valtteri Bottas that's behind me, the Williams way up the order, but Raikkonen's going to disappear away from us pretty sharpish. Out of the top 10 again now, up to down to P11. And in the top 10 here last season for large portions of the race, and it was Fernando Alonso's brake issue that eventually elevated us to P9. Quite know if we're going to be so lucky this season. We're already out the top 10 as here comes Valtteri Bottas. Didn't know where to go. Verne behind him as well. Wide into the penultimate corner on worn tyres. Stay to the inside of the Sauber. He's going to try the up and under, and I think he's going to get it, you know, but we get DRS, we turn him around.
Be aware, we think the car behind is trying to save fuel.
We just got connected together then. For the second race in a row, we come to blows with Esteban Gutierrez. And we somehow get away without the penalty. Tyres are ruined. Last another lap on these, if I want to hit my target. I don't know, I was going to be honest, even before the DRS line, I've got nothing to defend against the Venezuelan. Hulkenberg's now going to be also looking at having a go. Can I outbrake them even on worn tyres? I can. I run a little wide, we're about 5 wide now. Somehow stay in front of everyone. Don't put any power down in that long right at the moment. They're all over the back of me.
We're ready for you. Box in this lap.
They'll all follow me in. Everyone's already been in. That was just that Ricciardo's coming in as we light up the exhausted rear tyres. barely keep it on the road into the pits as Ricciardo carries on. Few people do. Van der Garde carries on, Bianchi will carry on. But might even get back past us, to be honest. I think he will. He does go by. We stay ahead of those who were immediately behind us, I suppose. There's a small crumb of comfort.
We've fitted you with a new set of prime tyres. You have 2 stops remaining. 2 stops.
3-stop race here. Looks like Ricciardo's actually carried on. Must have started on the primes.
We've had a look and we think Vern is due to pit within the next 5 laps. Jules has entered the pit lane. He's in the pits.
Vern's so far the only person to have jumped us.
We think
Ricciardo still ain't there.
On full revs. He's trying to close the gap.
Ricciardo is indeed in the pits now. I think he's actually leaving. He is leaving his box. We might get done by Daniel Ricciardo. There he is, leaving the pits. Hulkenberg to our outside, having to sort of just about hold off the Sauber. Oh, it's a robust move on Ricciardo. Late on the brakes. We're through though. We will get warned for it.
We're doing really well. 6 places up on where we expected to finish.
DRS as well. All a little feisty. Really just want to stay ahead of Ricciardo. Maldonado to the inside. Ricciardo's going to have a go as well. Maldonado comes back across a touch.
That's 12th, you're up to 12th.
You have to get back past him, though. Not Ricciardo behind us anymore. We're down to 21. I think Daniel Ricciardo is out of this race. And big news for our rivalry. Daniel Ricciardo is out of this Grand Prix, as Nico Hulkenberg is now the man trying to find a way past us in the Sauber. We'll go 3-1 up in the rivalry. Granted, we in the last 2 races have strong-armed our way through on Ricciardo, but sometimes it's unavoidable. The result we get now is a bonus. We have a queue of cars behind us, all wanting to find their way past. Both Force Indias, both Sabres, both Williams as well, I think, in that train behind us. Oh, we go deep through turn 1. Hulkenberg's through. Now the slip back starts, I guess. Not as late on the brakes into the hairpin this time around. We get DRS though. It doesn't matter. The speed advantage of these other cars. Hulkenberg's gone. Maldonado. To think. Maldonado looking up the inside there as well. One wide. And looking up the inside, he's putting his nose in places that probably shouldn't be putting it. Try and go around the outside at the final corner. Still there. You have to squeeze him a little bit. I don't remember last year being this much of a struggle, even all the way up in 9th.
Vettel's had option tyres put on his car. He's going for a shorter stint.
Here comes Maldonado and Gutierrez. Maldonado to the inside. Really sweep round the Williams. There's Jean-Eric Verne. We nearly actually get back past the Frenchman after his second stop. As we look to the inside at the hairpin, we actually get it. We're into P11, which would suggest that Hulk was in as well.
Come on, keep going.
At the end of the next lap, so short-lived in this position, I think. And really isn't our fight. There's Hulkenberg, they've been in already. Tap the back of Verne now as he comes to a halt quite early.
Too much grip. You should consider coming into the pits and replacing your tyres.
Oh, Hulkenberg's collected us. We were having to brake early because worn tyres and Verne right there, and Hulkenberg's gone into the side of us. Much like Japan, this is turning into a bit of a carnage fest. Wide into the pits. I think Van der Garde is carrying on. Yeah. Maldonado isn't. Maldonado's in with us. Ahead of the Williams.
We're racing on the way out.
Bottas is through. Gutierrez is through, so we lose another couple of spots.
Watch out for traffic as you rejoin the track.
We're lapped by Alonso as we head onto the track.
Conditions. Let the car immediately behind through. You're not racing him.
Rosberg next to lap us as we try and keep out of his way.
Good job. Back up to speed now. Blue flag no longer applies.
Wide on roll tyres. Maldonado very off the circuit trying to pass us there.
Looks like the car ahead is trying to create a gap. He's running full revs, maximum power.
Bottas there having to back off to let the leaders through. A couple of cars in the pits as well.
Looks like Bottas is going to pit within the next couple of laps.
Jump the one car that was in the pits. Don't know what it is about that long right-hander. Keep running wide. Maldonado keeps taking a look, and every time we just about hold him off. All wide through the hairpin. Maldonado surely, I was going to say get by, but he has to let Button through. Saves us a little there. We got the McLaren past. Very much like Suzuka in terms of just a complete and total lack of any pace.
You need to increase the gap. You're within 1 second of the car behind. He will use DRS.
Adrian Sutil near the man in front of us as he's pitted in. Well, after sideways on lap one, once again get right into the hairpin. I've got no leaders to save me here. Drift along with Maldonado, keeps him behind us. Maldonado once again has to think about a move, and then he's got a Ferrari, a Red Bull and a Mercedes behind him, so he has to back off to let them all go. Saves us just for a moment.
Be aware, we think
that's
the car
Massa
behind
then.
is trying to save fuel.
Alonso's the man leading.
Okay, we need you to make way for the car behind.
Be a long enough straight here. Rosberg, Massa and Vettel. Vettel tags Rosberg, sends him off track. And then he tags Maldonado. We're down to 20. Surely that hasn't knocked Rosberg out of this race. We have to cut the corner there to just... We were never making it, essentially. Rosberg is still in this one. And there he is.
Let the car immediately behind
Massa
through.
heads
You're
in.
not racing him.
Rosberg should have
Finish
enough
this
to
lap.
just get
Come
by.
into the pits at the end of this lap.
And he does, but he squeezes us a little bit. Hard on the brakes to avoid the back of the Mercedes. Find out who's out in a second. Looks like we're going to have Maldonado for company. DRS off Rosberg though, so that's defence for us, at least a little bit. I feel like if somebody behind us, I think we'd know by now if there's anybody in front of us that's been dropped out of this race. Shall peek indicator in this out as we just understeer off circuit. Tyres fairly worn. It is time for our last stop of the race.
You have a 2-second gap to the car behind. We need to keep it clean so he doesn't get a
A
chance to
McLaren
overtake.
behind us, I guess that's Jensen Button, it is. Button though just hits the side of
Let
us.
the car behind you past. He's not racing you for
We
position.
head on into the pits. Bottas has been in, I think. I guess so. Maldonado coming in, so Williams sort of double stacking, although more than enough space between them. The options for the final few laps of this one. Are we going to have enough to stay in 16th? Yes, we are.
Watch out as you rejoin the track.
We've worn option tyres for the last few laps of this one.
You have no more scheduled pit stops, so look after your tyres.
Maldonado held his position as well.
Okay, we need you to make way for the car behind.
There's Webber. And Grosjean. As we stay wide. And Raikkonen.
Behind you, he's 5 seconds adrift.
Don't forget Raikkonen we were fighting with early in the race. He took 10th place off of us. Right here, actually, I think. As we've now got Perez. Yeah. Wide to let Perez through. Back to having a straight fight with Maldonado over 16th place. On to the final lap of the final Indian Grand Prix. We're just holding Maldonado at arm's length here. Little bit of a manic race, unspectacular. Solid may be the wrong word, but we're holding this position. We're down to 19 all of a sudden as well. Somebody else has dropped out of this race. If there's anybody immediately in front of us, we might snag another position, but we're under threat from Maldonado here, and we hold him off at the end of the straight. If there's somebody a lap ahead of us, that would be most unfortunate for us anyway. Sebastian Vettel takes the victory, so it might have even been Fernando Alonso up at the front. Vettel wins, which will really do his championship wonders. Bottas isn't changing position, so I'd assume it was one of the lead cars that's dropped out. We bounce our way through into the final sector. Maldonado to the inside. He's at the outside for the final corner. He looks for the up and under. He stays to the outside, but we'll hold him off. And we'll take P16. Not the most spectacular of results, but we beat Daniel Ricciardo and we beat our teammate, and we come home 16th, so at least a little bit better than Suzuka was, and maybe not as good as a few rounds before it, but it's a solid if unspectacular result, I guess. At the top end of things, Sebastian Vettel wins from Nico Rosberg, Jenson Button, Fernando Alonso in 4th place, followed by Felipe Massa, Lewis Hamilton down in 6th. Things not looking good for the championship protagonists there. Webber in 7th ahead of Grosjean, Raikkonen and Perez, Hülkenberg in 11th ahead of Verne, Gutierrez, and I think Adrian Sutil might have dropped out there at the end to finish 14th. Bottas was a lap down in 15th, and it's us, Maldonado, Bianchi, Van der Garde. The retirements, De Resta. Oh, it was De Resta behind us then, I guess. De Resta out, Piquet, Daniel Ricciardo out. What does that do to the championships? Well, it's a 20-point gap that Vettel has over Alonso with 3 rounds left. Lewis Hamilton in 3rd, 34 back for falling on the cusp now of falling out of the title hunt. Rosberg is mathematically out of it. Massa in 5th, then it's Webber, Perez, Raikkonen, Button, Grosjean holding on to 10th and actually extends his lead to 5 points over Hülkenberg. De Resta remains 12th ahead of Sutil, Gutierrez. Ricciardo remains 15th ahead of Maldonado and ourselves, but then it's the no-point scorers still. Verne, Bottas, Bianchi remains ahead of the Caterhams at least. In the Constructors, Mercedes' lead is cut to 18 points to Red Bull. Ferrari are 29 points behind. McLaren now edging further away from Lotus. Maybe they're just about to claim 4th spot. Sauber remain in their bubble in 6th ahead of Force India, Toro Rosso, Williams, us, and we are just 1 point ahead of Caterham. And it was a tough Indian Grand Prix. We didn't really have the pace in qualifying, didn't really have the pace in the race either. We'd made our way up to 10th early, but just seemed to struggle through the middle sector, and that's it. We'll never come back to this circuit again. It is done. The final Indian Grand Prix is complete. 3 rounds left of this season. Abu Dhabi, the United States, at Kota, and Brazil. Both championships still all to play for, with 3 people and 3 constructors fighting it out. We, however, just need to close out the season now, I think. Try and end the season on a fairly positive note. After Japan and here have not been the best rounds, but we have taken a 3-1 lead over Daniel Ricciardo, and I think we're level on the qualifying back with Bianchi, but we've easily outraced him and outpaced him this season. It was a tough one, but we managed to stay ahead of a Williams at least. Thank you so much for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff, you know the drill by now. I'll see you for the next one as we start the final 3. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.